Well, hello, my fellow card modelers. How are you doing today? Welcome to another episode of Luka's Kits. And we actually have a brand new addition to the stash. I am so happy about this. It is kind of a lame duck in the world of model cars, if you are familiar with this. But this is actually one of my holy grails. And I am really excited to have it finally. I've literally wanted one of these for, I would say close to 40 years. It's 38 since the late 80s, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this is kind of a kit that it doesn't get around much. Many people might not know about it because it's weird, because if you see right here, let's show you what it says right there. Diecast metal. The body is diecast. You could feel it. Holy cow, this is heavy. It's a kind of a very toyish model. Yeah, it was geared towards kids. It probably came out in 1980. It is a car that Darrell Waltrip drove just a few times, and they did two of these. They did this one, and they did a Richard Petty one. And because I'm a huge Darrell Waltrip fan, still to this day. Really like Darrell Waltrip a lot. And I had this project I started way back in the late 80s that I was going to build at least one representation of Darrell's Winston Cup career cars up to that point in time, which at that time when I concocted the idea, it was like he was still racing the Tide Lumina. Just started racing the Tide Lumina. Through my research back then, way before the internet, I did discover that he drove one of these Caprices in the late 70s. I think in just the 80 season, might have been in the 79 season. So these were actually the larger 115-inch wheelbase cars, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I had discovered back in the late 80s that these were made, and I thought, I could also do one of his Caprice Gatorade cars. They have a kit of it. And I researched of the kit, knew what it was, and I thought I can still make it work. The thing was getting hold of one even back in the late 80s. They were getting kind of pricey. I found one for $47. I was going to mail order it. I found it in a send a self-addressed stamped envelope to, I think it was Hobby Heaven, which is Spotlight Hobbies today, and they had one for $47, but it was the Richard Petty one. And I thought, Fred Katie had the decals, no problem. I'll get the Richard Petty one. I almost ordered it, and I backed out. And then years and years went by. I never have seen one of these at the swap meets. It was a car that I don't know. It's been sitting in the back of my mind that I got to get a Caprice and build one. And so it's always been on my mind, but it's never been real forefront. I thought if I ever ran into one and found a good deal on one, I'd snag it. But I'd actually see these going for stupid prices, which, it's a collector's item. It's very cool. It's very unique. And let's take a look at the box while I tell you more of the story. It's got a pretty cool box art, really. You can kind of see right there, it shows you how kind of toyish and jeefy the model is. But they're truthful in the build-up right there. And, it has over 60 parts. Come on, it's detail plastic roll. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Toy. But the one thing about this car, look, we got some star car driver Darrell Waltrip has reached a peak that many racing experts and there's the real car. But if you notice right here, back then Chevrolet tried, you can kind of see it there, really tried to play with the aerodynamics using this car, and it was the first time they ever did that aero back window and get rid of that notch. And they produced a few of those cars. I want to say it was just in 79. I don't know a lot about Caprices. If you are a Caprice fanatic, please, down in the comments below, let us know what years did they have that slanted back window. They were always really cool cars, man. I always thought they looked cool. I knew some people that drove around here in town with them, and I always thought they were neat. And there, look at that. That shows you what it is. That metal body, that plastic chassis. Whatever. We're going to get taking a look at it real soon. It was a thing. They ran them in NASCAR, mostly on short tracks. You really didn't see them out there much. I don't know how successful they were but by judging by the Chevrolet teams that ran them, they didn't really run them much. They kept going back to the big Monte Carlo and, of course, on the super speedways. There's no way this was going to beat the Oldsmobile 442. That was just too sleek of a car. So they were only ran a little bit. Still, a unique car, something that I thought would go into the Darrell Waltrip collection, which I still kind of always have that project in the back of my mind. Anyways, getting back on how I got this. This came about, I want to thank a customer of mine / regular on my Luka C Model Car Hobby Headquarters Facebook group, and has now kind of become a good friend of mine. That would be Dan Rosenello. If you look him up on my Facebook page, really good modeler. We started talking a little ways back, and he kind of knew my story. By regular viewer of this channel knew I was a Darrell Waltrip fan, and he had bought this off of eBay. He had interested in it. He thought it was cool, and he was showing it on the Facebook group, and I had just mentioned, man, that's one of my holy grails. I just always wanted it. He contacted me after looking at it and said, yeah, there's nothing I can do with this, and you're going to see why. And you guys are going to go, Luka, why are you so into it? Well, this will tell you right here. The decals aren't even decals. They're peel-off stickers. That's to start it, but they're actually printed really nice. They're cool looking. But here we go. It is very, very, very simplified. Jeez, holy cow. Heavy paper. It's like almost construction paper they made the instructions of. Extremely simple car. But right there kind of gives you an idea. It's a toy. It really is. And look at where to apply the stickers. And see right here, it shows the other one they did. They did the Richard Petty car. And those are the only two Caprices they did. Die-cast metal plus plastic kit. That's how they went with that. And here we go. So Dan, he was not impressed. He didn't really give a lot for it. He got pretty lucky. I think people are starting to catch on. These aren't really worth the bigger money that they used to bring. It's kind of a collector's item, but really it's kind of an unbuildable kit for anything substantial to what we do when we're building. But if you want to do a Caprice, it's the only game in town, dude. You got to go with it. He knew what I felt about this, and he contacted me and wondered if I would want to buy it, and we kind of negotiated and actually turned it into a trade thing, and it was pretty cool. And you know what? Guess what? He sent it to me. I told him, I'll get some stuff together for you. Giving him some of my parts. He actually just asked for one item, and he already had bought one, but he wanted another one. And I said, sure, I'll give you that. And boom, he sent this to me before I got one casted and ready to go for him. And I was going, dude, hold on. I really appreciate this. And even though it's money-wise, what he paid for this and what he would have paid for the item I'm sending him, I go, this is too cool and what a great gesture. I want to send him more stuff. So I'm putting together a little package for him. I thought that was really cool of him. This was something I always wanted. Look at that seat. Holy cow. And Dan, I really appreciate it. It was something cool. But there's your metal thing. So I'm pretty stoked to have it. Looking at it, this is the first time I'm looking at it. So I'm kind of like, it's more toyish than I even thought. Look at these tires. Look at this. Look at that. They're hollow tires, at least. And oh, look at this here. Look at them honking axles that you got to pound in with a hammer. Now I get it. Woo! Holy toy. Here's the chrome tree. So I've got my Caprice. Moroso valve covers, at least. That's the whole top of the engine is on the chrome tree. Yeesh. They look like 13-inch wheels in scale. Now, my figuring... Oh, this is interesting. Check this out. This just goes to show you. They threw in the engine sprue tree from the Petty one. It's all Petty blue. That's interesting. And here's your very simple chassis. Oh, all molded in exhaust and rear end and gas tank. The glass, it's a little tinted, a little chunky looking, but I guess that'll do good. So I'm assuming behind here, there's where the money's at. That's what we need. Honestly, by looking at all this, there's no way I'm going to use this chassis. I might use this chassis for something else. It could be a cool toy to throw together and let Felix play with. Maybe I'll let Felix build it. We'll let Felix build this chassis. Definitely. Look at that. There's what the heck's going on there? Had to make it big to fit the roll cage. Yeah, it's not looking good, friends. And there's the interior tub and the holy cow, what's going on there? Yeah, that's accurate. Oh, look at this. This is interesting. Here's the rest of the pieces. The only bagged portion here still sealed. Well, the chrome was too. Even got a can right there. A gas can. That is the biggest fire extinguisher ever used in NASCAR right there. All right, let's get ready. We're going to uncover the body. This is where it counts. Oh, geez, there it is. Yeah, first glance, it's kind of pooched up right there. But I've seen that in Diecast a lot. Do a little body work and tap that down. It looks kind of weird, but honestly, that looks like a late 70s two-door Caprice, big time. Now, this kit, they only gave you the back, flat back, and you can see the trunk kind of goes up. So there would have to be a little bit of body work and rescribing and try to come up with a back window. Probably could figure out a way to do that with some, maybe make the buck and then vacuum form it, because they for some reason only did the flat back glass. I don't know if they had a toy of just a regular Caprice, because this looks kind of stock. I thought, assuming from the pictures, which actually is a drawing, I thought we were going to get some really cool bubble flares. It doesn't look like we got anything. They actually look kind of stock. So there'd be a lot of work that'd have to be done. And plus, holy cow. And everything's really thick. Like, this is thick, and you got this, I'm gonna have to saw that off and stuff. But my thinking was, I did some videos in the past about how you can use the scales to work in your favor. And one thing that I do a lot is when I want to do 70s cars, the majority of the time the 70s cars I want to do are done in 1/25th scale. But I love the monogram, now done by Salvino's JR Models, the monogram 80s NASCAR race car kits, which are 24 scale. And they are depicting the 110-inch wheelbase cars. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do is, I happen to have one of my monogram bodies right here. This is the Monte Carlo. And let's just do this wheelbase check. And look what we got there. The chassis should work out really good from one of the monogram kits. That's perfect. 110-inch wheelbase, 115-inch wheelbase, 25th scale, 24 scale. You see how you can always get that to work in your favor? Body. And let's see, I happen to have one of my test chassis I have laying around, all built up. Let's see, I'm not going to be able to get this on here because this is in the way and it's going to hit the dash, but I can't really fit it in there. But I think we are going to be able to, I think the chassis, you can see how stuff lines up. I think it'll work out really good. Going to have to do some modifying. I can see right now the body won't fit over because it'll hit, the bulging of the sidebar, so I probably would have to cut those away and do something flat, because as you can see by the metal there, it's very thick and very flat, so those door bars aren't going to fit. Going to have to cut that away. Not to mention, this is pretty heavy. I don't know how it'll affect the chassis. The chassis is going to have to be pretty robust. That's a lot of weight on the chassis. It's going to, and this has already got kind of a questionable rear end setup there. It won't go on this chassis. I'd build a whole new chassis for it. But by the looks of things, man, it'll work. It would work. It definitely would work. That's pretty cool to know. So there you go, man. You want to do one of those Caprice from the 70s, and I kind of do. You know, I want to have a representation of Darrell Waltrip short track car from that season. This is all you got. I know there has been resin bodies made in the past, and it's probably been taken from this right here. If anything, if I never build it, that's okay. This is a cool little throw it on the shelf collector's item. I'm stoked to have it. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dan. Go over and check out his work. He's a really awesome model builder, and man, I am super stoked to have this in the stash. This will go up on the shelf where it'll be displayed, because that's just cool. This is just cool box art. I really dig it. So, man, why do we get these ridiculous old kits and these still circulate around? And there's some of us old fuddy-duddies that like to get a hold of these silly kits, because it's kind of fun looking at, you know, the past of our hobby. I don't think anybody's going to repop this thing. Let's hope. But why do we put ourselves through this, the hunt, having Holy Grails like this? Well, because it's fun, right? Here's the producers.
Luka's kids, it's Luka's kids, it's Luka's kids, it's